Hey there, fellow adventurers, and welcome back to the Traveling Cheesehead Podcast, where history, quirky traditions, and fabulous food all come together in the heart of the Midwest. Now, if you asked me to sum up the Midwest in just a few comfort foods, I couldn't stop at just 3. I'd need to have at least 5 plates. And today, we're serving them up. From pies that kept me baking 750 every year at Thanksgiving, to the fiery drama of a Door County fish boil. This episode is all about the foods that fill the belly and feed the soul. So grab a fork and maybe some stretchy pants, because here we go. Now, the Midwest's sweet and savory crown. When most people think about the Midwest, pie is right at the top of the list. Apple, cherry, pumpkin, you name it. But for me, pie isn't just a dessert, it's a chapter in my life. Back when I had my restaurant, Thanksgiving was a marathon. In 1 year alone, we baked 750 pies for our customers. Yes, 750. Imagine a kitchen filled with steam, sugar, and the sound of rolling pins hitting the counter all day long. Okay, some people might not think that's a bad thing. We weren't just turning out classics like pumpkin custard, although those were always the first go-to. We were also making quirky regional favorites. One of my favorites was my mother's sour cream raisin pie topped with a brown sugar meringue. It might sound unusual if you haven't tried it, but it was one of our top sellers because it's pure Midwest nostalgia in a single slice. And pies weren't just tied to the holidays. They're centered to the Midwest culture. Winning a blue ribbon at the State Fair pie competition is the stuff of legend. And in places like Michigan's Traverse City, cherry pie reigns supreme. Rhubarb? Oh, that's practically its own religion in small towns across Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Then there are the church basement pie socials. Tables lined with every flavor imaginable. Ladies with their aprons tied tight and the whole town gathered to eat, gossip, and support the local fundraiser. It's one of those Midwest traditions that's as much about community as it is about the dessert. Now, I've seen it all, from secret crust recipes handed down generations to small town pie stand on the side of the road that lured every passerby. And around here, pie isn't just a question of if, it's a question of what kind. Now, Michigan's Yooper staple, well, and Wisconsin's too here, we're talking pasties. Let's head north. Pasties may be Michigan's claim to fame, especially in the Upper Peninsula, but Wisconsin's Mineral Point has its own proud story too. Cornish miners brought pasties with them when they came to work the lead and copper mines in the 1800s. Picture a hand-sized, flaky pastry stuffed with meat, potatoes, and maybe even a little diced rutabaga. It was the original lunchbox meal. Easy to carry, hearty enough to get through a long shift underground, and designed to stay warm until lunchtime. Now here's the quirky part. Miners would hold that thick, crimped edge with their dirty hands, eat the middle, and then toss that little crust away. It's a built-in sanitary measure in a time before hand sanitizer even existed. So, of course, the tradition didn't just stay static. Today you'll find fruit pasties for dessert, even gourmet versions filled with everything from chicken curry to vegetarian delights. If you want to taste a true pasty, now you don't have to look far. Stop in Ironwood, Marquette, or Escanaba, Michigan, and you'll find roadside stops with signs proudly boasting best pasties in the UP. Or, if you're in Wisconsin, Mineral Point keeps its Cornish heritage alive with their bakeries, festivals, and restaurants. Wherever you go, that first bite connects you right back to the miners who started it all. Now, we're going to talk about pork tenderloins, where the sandwich is bigger than the bun. So, it kind of looks like this sandwich belongs on a comedy sketch. The pork tenderloin sandwich. Born in the diners of Iowa and Indiana, this sandwich is Midwest excess at its best. A pork tenderloin gets pounded thin, breaded, and fried until golden brown. Then, here's the kicker. It is served on a regular hamburger bun that's about 5 times smaller than the meat. The result? A photo op would need to happen. The meat flops out in every direction, making your sandwich look like it's wearing a bun hat. It's adorable, hilarious, and definitely something of a challenge. Of course, now there's this debate. Do you prefer it breaded and fried or grilled for a slightly healthier take? And then there's the rivalry over who makes the biggest or the best tenderloin sandwich. In Iowa, the Pork Producers Association runs an annual contest to crown a winner, and the bragging rights are enormous. Now, if you're road tripping through the Midwest, adding a pork tenderloin sandwich to your bucket list is a must. Just make sure that you've got both hands free and maybe a few extra napkins. Now, here's my personal take. I like to take it off the bun. It's not a sacrilege. I like to cut it into 4 pieces, stack them on top of each other, and put them back on the bun. That way I feel like I'm eating just a real big jawbreaker pork tenderloin, but it keeps my hands a little freer and easier. But that's just me. Now, there's Iowa's quirky icon, the loose meat sandwiches. If that tenderloin sounds over the top, Iowa balances things out with something much more humble, the loose meat sandwich. Think of it as a sloppy Joe without the sauce. It's just seasoned ground beef, usually steamed, crumbled loose on a bun, and they usually throw just a little bit of pickle and maybe even mustard on it. Now, this sandwich was made famous by the Made Right diners in Iowa, where locals are fiercely loyal. Everyone has their own, this is the real deal location. And if the name sounds familiar, it might be because of TV. Now, remember the Roseanne show? Loose meat sandwiches were a regular plot line there. It's simple, it's messy, and it's pure Iowa comfort. Sometimes less really is more. Now, how about dinner and a show with a Door County fish boil? So finally, let's end with something that's not just a meal, but a performance. The Door County fish boil. This Scandinavian tradition came to Wisconsin with immigrants who settled along the peninsula. They needed a way to feed large groups quickly, so they boiled big pots of fresh caught whitefish, onions, and potatoes over the fires. But the real showstopper is the boil over. Right at the end, the cook throws kerosene on the fire or whatever, and the pot roars to life. The flames shoot into the air, the pot boils over dramatically. It's part dinner, part theater, and always draws a crowd. Of course, the real treat comes after the flames die down and you sit at a lakeside table, cracking into your fish, and slathering those potatoes with that melted butter. It's the Midwest in its purest form, practical, hearty, and shared together. Now, why do these foods matter? When you look at all 5 of these different dishes together, you start to see a bigger picture. They're not just meals. They're Midwest identity on a plate. Each one is rooted in immigrant traditions. Cornish miners with their pasties, German farmers and their pork and pie, Scandinavian fishermen with the fish boils, and don't forget those lovely church ladies that kept communities connected with their baking. Even the humble loose meat sandwich tells a story of diners and roadside stops that welcome travelers and locals alike. They're affordable, hearty, and meant to be shared. Whether it's a pie social in a church basement, a roadside diner tenderloin, or a lakeside fish boil, these foods invite us to gather, laugh, and fill our bellies together. And speaking as a Wisconsin gal who's tested every single one of these dishes, I can tell you, it's not just about the flavor. It's about how these foods make you feel. Welcomed, cared for, and a part of something bigger. That's what makes them comfort food in the truest sense. So there you have it, 5 plates that tell the story of the Midwest. Pies that win ribbons, fill kitchens, and anchor community gatherings. Pasties that fueled miners and evolved into gourmet delicacies. Pork tenderloins that are bigger than their buns and bigger than life. Loose meat sandwiches that prove simplicity can still be iconic. and fish boils that turn dinner into a fiery spectacle. These aren't just recipes, they're history, tradition, and identity waiting to be devoured. They connect us back to our ancestors, to our communities, and to the places we call home. And that's what the Midwest serves best. Food that fills the belly and feeds the soul. Thanks for joining me at the table today. Until next time, keep traveling, keep tasting, and keep savoring the small town flavors that make the Midwest unforgettable. And before you push back from our table, here's a little taste of what's coming next. We'll be diving into another Midwest classic, the world's largest roadside attractions. And I promise it's going to be just as hearty, quirky, and delicious as today's lineup. So hit that subscribe button, share the episode with a fellow foodie or traveler, and join me the next time for another bite of Midwest flavor.